Hey, Kevin here from DIYDork.com. Today I want to show you this really awesome makeover I did on this super ugly table I got for $4 at the thrift store. Now this thing looked like it used to be in the break room of some dirty factory, but I totally freshened it up, gave it a new life, and it turned out awesome. So let me show you how I did it. Alright, so here is the table I'm starting with. Just look at that gorgeous piece of furniture right here. Picked it up at a thrift store and it needs a little help. But I got it super cheap. I got it for $4. And you would never guess that. I mean, this thing looks like it's at least $6 or $7, right? And anyway, they had it listed for $8. And I was looking at my wallet. I was like, oh, I didn't bring any cash with me. I was just kind of looking just to see what was available. And then a lady came up and told me, hey, it's half price day. So I got it for $4, so I couldn't pass on it. Main reason I bought it was because of the metal base. I like the lines on it. I think it looks pretty cool. The fake, laminate wood top, I don't really care about that, so I'm actually going to recover it. But the only problems it really has, other than I need to tear all this rubber off the edge, is that it at some point had a repair. Can you see that? Pretty rough metal work there, so I'm gonna have to kind of grind that smooth and do a little Bondo work. And then the ends of the table legs, one of them is busted off, so I'm gonna figure out a way to kind of grind and cut sort of a shape into it, round it off so it looks like it was on purpose, and then I'll have to make the other three match that. So that shouldn't be too big of a deal. And then the top, I'm just gonna cover with the remaining wood slats I've had left over from, I've done several projects with them. It's just a really simple way to redo a tabletop that looks great, and it's really hot right now, so people are buying it up. And anyway, go ahead and get started on it, because I think this thing is going to look dramatically different. Alright, so I decided that the first thing I want to do is figure out how big I want the tabletop to be. So I want to cut it down because I don't really want this rounded corner. So I need to trim some of it off so that it matches the same width as all of my slats when I put them together. So I laid out a bunch of them till it basically covered the top, and they come out to 35 inches wide, yet the table kind of hangs over underneath by about 1/4 inch, just the little wood part. So I'll trim that off on both sides, and then also on these sides too, so that I still have a nice square tabletop. So I'll mark them, cut them next, and then I'll start messing with the metal work after that. Alright, so those 4 little cuts made a huge mess, but at least now my table's cut down. And I got rid of the round corners for the most part. There's just a little bit there, but I can deal with that. So one more thing I'm going to do before I take the tabletop off of the metal base is I'm going to take my little angle grinder here that I recently dug up from storage, and I'm just going to go over the whole tabletop and just rough it up pretty good, so that way later when I add my slats and I glue and nail them down, hopefully the glue will actually stick, because it won't stick to this laminate as is. So I'll do that next, and then I'll take it off and start working on the metal base. Alright, so I think that actually worked pretty well. It definitely gave me lots of grip, so hopefully the glue will stick decent enough whenever I nail the slats down. The only problem is, man, I got an even bigger mess. I am coated in really, really nasty smelling laminate dust, so I'm gonna have to clean this up before I start working on anything else. Alright, so I got the mess cleaned up. So I unscrewed the tabletop, take it off, I'll work on it separate. Now I can figure out what's going on with this table base and see how I can fix it. Alright, so I think I want to start with this really rough section here. Now I thought it had snapped and someone tried to re-weld it at some point, but it looks like it's actually designed that way. It bolts together. It looks like it may be cast aluminum, so hopefully that will grind pretty easy, and then I can smooth it out with a little Bondo, so I'll do that next. Alright, so I finished grinding that weld that goes around, and there's still a couple of pock marks here. But when I was grinding, I was thinking, man, it's awful soft. Maybe this really is aluminum. So what I did is I got a little magnet here, a piece of metal, And just to test it, oops, it's definitely not sticking. So almost positive that this is aluminum. So I think what I'm going to do, my original plan was to Bondo those little pock marks and then kind of, you can see how it kind of dips here. I was going to kind of level that out with Bondo and do body work and all that stuff, then spray the whole thing silver. Well, if this is already aluminum, I think I'll go ahead and take the time and make the mess and just grind all of this beige rubber coating off. And then it'll just be straight up aluminum for a really cool kind of industrial look. Alright, so as you just saw, I finally figured out that if I got a good start to it, I could actually peel it off in little chunks like this. So I didn't have to continue grinding it and melting it down to this nasty mess, which, by the way, smelled like a mix between dog poop and really cheap perfume. It was pretty gross. I was starting to gag, so I had to figure out a better way. Alright, so now that it's off, I can just go through and grind off this old finish to get this really cool raw finish. Alright, so now I got it all ground down and it looks good, except now I have to fix the end of the legs here because this one's busted off. So I just took a marker and hopefully it'll look okay, but I just made a little line here and I'm going to take my grinder and just kind of cut that off and then smooth it out. And if it looks okay, then I'm going to make the other ends match. So hopefully this works. Alright, and there we go. Got them all finished. Now those ends look like they were always supposed to look like that. And that's when you get a good subtle modification, is when you can't even tell it was done. So I think that turned out great. I just really like the grinder marks on this. I'm just going to leave it as is. Just has that kind of you know, raw industrial handmade look to it. You can barely see the little pock marks now. I'm just going to leave them. It'll just add to the effect. So now that the base is finished, I can move on to covering the top with the wood slats.